Hey guys, Robbie Payne here again. Today coming at you with a head-to-head between the HP Chromebook 14 and the Acer C720. Now, if you haven't already, there are full reviews up on my channel, so I'm not going to bug you with a bunch of stuff popping up all over the screen. Just hit my channel down below. You can see the reviews for both. And kind of check them out individually, and now we're going to put them side by side. Interestingly enough, those of you who have watched these reviews or have researched these things, you do realize that internally, if we were to strip away all the exterior parts, the things that are pushing these guys are literally the same, right down to the pieces and everything. Obviously the motherboard's a little bit different, but all the pieces that matter are all the same. We have the Haswell class Celeron processor in both. We have 4 gigs of RAM in both, and then we have Chrome OS on version 31, I believe at this point, running on both of these. So you're not going to see any performance differences. So it really makes no difference, or makes no sense for me to open these things up and start opening a bunch of tabs and let's try this game on this one and this one on that one. Kind of like you saw on the HP 14 versus the HP 11. There was a point to be made there that even though the HP 11 is gorgeous and beautiful, it lacks severely in performance. And until you get your hands on one of these Haswell type Chromebooks, it's hard to even appreciate it really. And then once you use it, it's really difficult to ever think about going back. And so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about the internals and looking at speed tests and stuff like that. We're really going to focus more on the external parts, because that's the difference in them. Internally, the way they perform, the way they actually do the functions you need them to do, exactly the same. And having used both of them at length, I can say that there's no difference in performance. What you would expect from one, you get from the other. The only difference I've seen, and I'll show you the Linux environment really quickly. I guess Crouton has fixed a few things when I loaded it up on the HP before. This was a month ago or so. I had to do a couple fixes, scour the internet a little bit to get fixes for the trackpad. It wasn't working quite well. They had fixed that. There are 2 issues. The trackpad doesn't respond well to touch, and then the second issue, it disappears when you hover over certain elements in the Ubuntu interface. And so they have fixed the trackpad sensitivity thing with HP. I don't know if I'm not sure if that was just my particular machine the first time, or that Crouton has changed something. They're continually updating that stuff, so I'm not sure what the difference is exactly. But when I install Ubuntu on here, right out of the box, mouse works just fine. The cursor was still disappearing on particular elements, and so I had to do the mouse fix number 2. If you end up with either of these machines, I did have to do both mouse fixes on the Acer. So if you end up with either machine, you want to put Linux, you want to put Ubuntu on there, hit me up in the comments or on Google+. I'll put the links, and if I remember to, I'll throw the links down even in the description of the mouse fixes, and then the link to the article I always end up going to remind myself and grab the latest version of Crouton and all that kind of stuff. There's an article by Lifehacker that's really good, really straightforward, but there's tons of them out there. If you just search for Ubuntu on a Chromebook, there's a bunch of guides that tell you how. So I'm not going to reinvent the wheel that way. I'll just link you to those guys. And then I have found 2 particular things. One's a video, one's a post in Ubuntu question forum that fix the issues with the mouse in the Ubuntu environment. And so I can provide you with those things. So never fear if you like some Linux action on your Chromebook. For me, it fills a couple voids. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but if you do any kind of design work, any kind of graphic design, obviously there's some stuff that's okay, more Photoshop type stuff, Pixlr editor, and Sumo Paint, both of which browser based, and they do some good stuff. But for me, I'm more of an SVG edit kind of person. SVG edit's pretty awesome, but there's still a lot of problems with it right now. I'm more of an Adobe Illustrator, Serif, Draw Plus. You know, I like vector graphic type stuff for the work that I do, and so for me, I need that kind of thing. Well, the best open source vector graphic program is Inkscape, and so if you've never heard of it and you need something like that, it's free and it's open source and it keeps getting better. Inkscape, but it won't run on Chrome OS right now. So I need Linux in order to do that. Other than that, I really don't need anything outside of Chrome OS. So as soon as a workable, usable SVG editor comes along, and it's coming. If you use SVG-edit, you can try that out, Google that, and you can see how powerful these things are getting. Janvas is another one, Canvas with a J in front of it. There are a couple programs that are showing, hey look, we can do vector editing in a browser, and so it's just a matter of time before Chrome OS has a great vector editor. And so at that point, I honestly won't have a lot of need to go outside of the Chrome OS environment at all. So that aside, if you need Linux, there are fixes for the mouse, and you can use it, and I'll show you how quickly you can bounce back and forth between those two. A lot of people have been asking me about doing this head-to-head, so I just want to spend time on the hardware and kind of move on. Like I said, performance is the exact same. So we'll start with the HP 14. The overall build of this guy, and I've used all the current Chromebooks minus the Chromebook Pixel. I've got my hands on every Chromebook now, actually, other than the CR48, the initial Chromebook experiment device. And so of all of those, this is my favorite build quality holistically, I should say. The HP 11 is built really, really well. And if you see my side-by-side between this and the HP 11, you'll see that I really like a lot of the stuff they do. Their keyboard is fantastic. The build quality of the thing, the look, fantastic. I really love it. But its performance is so bad. It just mars all of that for me. And the trackpad is just mediocre at best. And so I feel like as a whole package, this is my favorite Chromebook right now. I'm probably giving away a little bit of a spoiler. I'm not trying to do a this versus that, and this one's better. I'm just kind of giving you a side-by-side comparison. And spoiler alert, this is my guy. This one's actually going back. Because I love the way this thing's built. I love the form factor, the size of it, as far as being a work machine. Again, it's use case scenario. We'll talk about a little bit more about that here in just a minute. But all those factors involved, I like this. If you haven't felt one of these before, it is a unique feel, almost a rubberized plastic on the top, bottom, sides, everywhere. On the back of it, it gets a little bit dimply, and so just a unique feel, nice and thin form factor. But not completely just boring. You know, it's got some nice curves to it. It strikes a nice profile. And it's got all the ports you need. You've got USB here, USB over here. They are 3.0. You see the SS next to them over here. These are 3.0. You have full-size HDMI slot. You've got earphone, microphone jack, Kensington lock, full-size SD. This one comes equipped with LTE and free 200 megabits per month from T-Mobile, power jack. And your speakers down here, which are plenty loud, actually side by side with the HP 11, which probably has the best speaker options of all the Chromebooks, where it kind of comes up through the keyboard. This one stood its ground just fine, and so I enjoy the build quality of the HP. It looks sharp. I don't care for the other colors. I wish they would have made one more neutral color, a black or a gray, something like that. I've seen the other two, and I wouldn't be able to work with those. You'll see in my first review of this guy, I ended up with the green one, and it's not that bad. It's more of a blue, to be honest. But it even still, maybe this says something about me as a person. I don't know, but I just had it bothered me having the blue one and the red/pinkish one. Coral peach is what they're calling it. I think it would bother me as well. So I'm a fan of kind of more neutral colors, let the thing get out of the way and let the content shine, that kind of stuff. And so I wish they did have one other neutral color, but really love the profile this thing strikes. It's just sharp looking, it's beautiful. We'll talk about the internal parts of the design here in just a second. We're going to move over to the Acer now, and you can see from the outside, very plain matte finish, but cheap plastic. So it doesn't have kind of rubberized texture of the HP. On the sides, again, port-wise, these guys stack up pretty nice. SD card slot, USB 2 over here, Kensington lock. Over here we have a USB 3.0, earphone, microphone jack, HDMI port, and power charging. And down here, just like with the HP, you get some slots for fans and speakers on the sides. Speakers on the HP definitely win. Neither one of them sound amazing, but the HP speakers are a little bit better. You do get a nice thin form factor here. It's not much thicker than the HP 11, and it's light. You know, 2 pounds and some change. I can't remember off the top of my head how much this thing weighs, but considerably lighter than the HP 14. Now, like I said about use cases, if you're looking to get a device to sit on the couch with and use while you're watching television, that form factor is a huge consideration. The weight is a huge consideration. The ease of just plopping it on your lap and using it's a huge consideration. And I said this in the HP 14 versus HP 11 review, that the 11 suits that need a whole lot better because it feels more like a tablet, almost in its weight and in its ease of access. Kind of, you start lugging this thing up on your lap. Now you can do it. It's just it's a little over 4 pounds, and so all of a sudden it feels like you're kind of lugging something around. However, for me, I use it for work, and so I've got a Windows desktop that sits at home that I can remote into for emergency case things. But I want to do everything I need to do work-wise. I do website work, design, and build and development. I love the fact that I'm able to do most of it on my Chromebook. I'm not sure why. I just love the fact that a web-based device I'm able to do web-based work on. It's kind of a neat thing and a neat feeling, and it feels like I'm kind of unshackled from all the old operating systems. And so for me, this works way better because it's a much larger display, a much larger surface for my hands to rest on, typing, all that kind of stuff. So again, use case is more important than anything else. Figure out what you're going to use it for and then base your decision on that. I'm not saying that there's one Chromebook that's better than the other for every single use case. Let's open them up really quickly. And I'm not sure if, let's scoot these guys down a bit. I'm unsure whether it comes off on the video. It probably doesn't. You know, the colors, I've got both of them cranked to full brightness. I'm trying to tilt the screens back a lot so that the camera can catch realistically what these things look like. The color's just way better on the HP. I mean, it's just a lot better. Things look really washed out on the Acer in comparison. And while the matte finish display over here is nice for knocking down glare, the overall screen is much better over here. And what's interesting is this compared to an HP Chromebook 11, this looks terrible compared to the IPS display on the 11. So again, it's relative and it's trade-offs. I wish that this had a better display on it. If this one had an IPS panel, even at the same resolution, if it had an IPS panel with better blacks and deeper colors and all that kind of stuff, this, in my mind, would easily be the best Chromebook on the market when it comes holistically all around. But it loses a bit in the screen department. A couple differences, design differences. Again, HP goes with what they call a metal look for the plastic here. It's plastic, but you know, it's firm. There's not a lot of creaking, moving. There's not a lot of flex or give in the keyboard here. The screen is decently bright. We're in a pretty bright room, all windows right now, and so I'm not having any issue seeing it, but it is cranked at full brightness. Great thing is, your Haswell with your processor here, so you can crank the screen to full brightness and still probably get 6.5 hours out of it, no problem. And so if you want to get that closer to 8-9 hours, you need to stay down between 60 and 70% screen brightness, be realistic about it. But that both of them do fantastic on battery. So yeah, the screens aren't the brightest in the world, but you can crank screen brightness. So it's again a trade-off. Overall, the feel of actually using the device here is much better on the HP 14 versus the Chromebook 11. Again, for long periods of typing, being at it as a workstation type thing. In addition, the keyboard itself actually feels much more premium on the HP 14 versus the Acer. That being said, usability as far as keystroke and all that kind of stuff, I typed well on both of them. I didn't really have any issue with either one. The Acer's keys just feel a lot more thin, a little bit less travel, and a lot lighter. I don't know if that's even makes sense on a keyboard, but It just, again, if you watch the review, the overwhelming feeling of the Acer is just cheap, and so it feels a lot cheaper, whereas the HP 14 feels more solid. Definitely the trackpad win goes to the HP 14. The click, you can kind of listen. It's kind of thin and cheap sounding. Over here, it's a nice, deep, very quiet. Probably almost undiscernible on the video. And so it just it feels a little bit more premium. But ultimately, they both track very well. Two-finger scrolling works just fine on both of them. All your gestures, all that kind of stuff, it all works. And so it's not like either one doesn't work or anything like that. That's not the case at all. We're talking about little nitpicky things like how the click sounds here. So don't let that be a deciding factor for you. Another design element I really like in pretty much any kind of laptop, netbook, Chromebook, whatever, anything where you're opening a lid over and over again, is to have a matte finish around the edge. And so because you're interacting with this all the time, it's nice to have something that doesn't pick up fingerprints. Whereas over here on the Acer, you've got the kind of cheap glossy plastic going on over here. It just picks up fingerprints all over the place and gets a bit irritating. Other than that, the Acer doesn't do bad on fingerprints at all. The HP is pretty much devoid of fingerprints, because you've got the soft touch stuff on the outside, you've got the kind of matte finish plastic here, and a matte finish plastic here. It just doesn't pick up fingerprints. I really had to wipe it off at all, unless you touch the screen, which there's really no point in doing that, but sometimes you find yourself doing that to show somebody something, so you might have to wipe off a fingerprint here and there. But ultimately, as far as day-to-day touch or fingerprint kind of stuff goes, the HP 14 has really no issues with that whatsoever. So really, it comes down to, again, your use case. What things work best for you? What kind of things are you going to use these devices for once you purchase them? If it's casual type stuff, the Acer is going to give you a cheaper device than the HP 11 that's just as light, just about the same size. An inferior screen, yes, but a much superior processor in the Haswell chip. The HP 14 is pretty much giving you the best of all worlds, but it's not light. It's not dainty. It's not really that couch friendly. I don't find myself sitting at home going, I'm gonna sit down and pick this guy up and mess with it on the couch. I'm gonna use my phone or a tablet or something like that for those kind of scenarios. So if you're not going to be using it for work, maybe the HP is not right for you. And heck, if you're only going to be doing really light web browsing, maybe the HP 11 is right for you. It really is a matter of kind of discerning what it is you're going to use the device for and how far you're going to push it. I did want to show you all one other thing, and I'm not sure if I've rebooted. Yeah, I have. So real quick, just want you to see what it looks like to run Linux on these guys. And we'll get it over here to you and make sure we have it. Nope. Oops, I need the shell first, sorry. You can see they both boot up Linux quite quickly. And like I was saying about the trackpad stuff, you can see trackpad works fine. It's not disappearing. One of the big ones that disappears in system settings when you hover over stuff. So you can see that that's working just fine. And the cool part about this, when you boot it up this way, you hold Shift, Control, Alt, and hit back, and we're right back to Chrome. No issues, and you don't have to leave that command prompt page open. So we can be doing whatever you want to be doing over here, and just as quickly, boom, we're right back into our Linux desktop. So you can bounce back and forth. They do share a similar folder. It's like the home folder, I think, or maybe the downloads folder they share. So if you need to move files between environments, there is a common folder, which is kind of cool. So that quick, that easy. And you can see, like I said, the mouse fixes work over here as well. So go under settings, we're not losing our cursor. So that's a huge deal, because obviously it becomes just about unusable if you don't have that. So again, hit me up in the comments. I'm going to try to remember to put a link to how to do that. So they both run that the exact same. They run everything the exact same. They're pretty much internally the same process, or the same computer. So we're really talking about external differences completely. And just again, so you can see, for those of you who have messed with ARM processing Chromebooks and have had to deal with Google Plus and its awfulness, you can just see how gorgeous this works. And there's an article right there about the touchscreen Acer C720p. Who knows when exactly that's going to come to the States? They're saying December. It'll be interesting to see. They're keeping the price down, $299, so I can't imagine they're putting much better of a screen in it, other than just covering it so that you can use it as a touchscreen. So that'll be an interesting addition to the Chromebook family. Still not the mid-range device that I'm ultimately looking for. I'm still hoping and hopeful that in the end I'm going to be able to get a device that externally has all the features I want and still internally has something similar to what these guys have, because I think this setup internally is going to be plenty for most people for a while when it comes to Chrome OS. So in the end, like I said, I gave this away before. This is the one I'm keeping. For me, this use case scenario makes more sense. The Acer is probably going to go back, and that's not to say that it's a bad device, or if you're considering it that you're making a mistake. I'm not saying any of those things. It's actually a pretty decent little device, and like I said, the knock, you're going to hear the screen's a bit dim and it's a little washed out. The knock, you're going to hear about that over and over and over again. It's offset a little bit, one, by the fact that it's a matte display, so at least it deflects all your glossy reflections. And then two, when it's not next to something that has a superior display, it doesn't feel that bad. And so that's kind of the whole thing with the Acer. Everything is, well, it's not that bad. There's nothing in my mind that it excels at better than any other Chromebook. If it were the only one with that Haswell processor in it, by far it would outpace everything else, but it's not. The HP 14 has that. And so the HP 14 has everything that the Acer has, but it has, in my mind, a better keyboard, a better trackpad, a better display, better build quality, and just better aesthetics overall. It just looks nicer, and it feels more premium in your hand. But the Acer is smaller, more portable, just about the same battery life. You're getting 7.5 hours out of the Acer versus the 8 to 9 hours out of the HP. And again, if you're cranking brightness fully and you're running videos and streaming stuff, we're going to reduce those numbers, but we're talking about average use time here. So hit me up in the comments if there's any other questions you guys have about them. I'll answer them to the best of my ability. One other thing I want to mention. The Acer, I believe, is a little easier as far as opening up and adding things to it. I know for sure you can just pull a RAM chip out and drop a larger RAM chip in if RAM is your thing, and then changing the solid state memory. From what I've read, is a lot easier on the Acer. It is doable on the HP. They both have screws on the bottom, so you can open them both up. As far as doing those things, I've not done them. I've not even attempted those things, so I've not put different parts in that aren't OEM stuff, and so I don't know how Chromebook reacts to those things. PCs are plug and play. You just put the stuff in, reboot it, and it does its own thing. I don't know if that happens on Chromebooks, so that would be questions and things you'd probably want to divert to somebody else who knows what they're talking about, because I am not sure on those things. I just know that the Acer is quite easy to open up from things I've seen online. So that's going to do it for me here, guys. For me, the winner is the HP 14. But that doesn't mean that's the case for everybody. Hopefully one of these guys is right for you, or the HP 11 is right for you, or a Chromebook that's on the verge of coming out is right for you. But hopefully you find a Chromebook that meets your needs, and you can kind of jump into this new paradigm of computing with all the other Chromies that are out there. Thanks, guys, for watching. Have a great Thanksgiving, and if you're watching this after Thanksgiving, have a great day. Thanks.